This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Mark Martin. The number of people applying for unemployment jumped last week to 853,000. That's the most since September, evidence that some companies are cutting more jobs amid concerns of more COVID-19 cases. The Labor Department said Thursday that the number of applications increased from 716,000 the previous week. Before the coronavirus paralyzed the economy in March, weekly jobless claims typically numbered only about 225,000. Meanwhile, the Food and Drug Administration's Vaccine Advisory Panel is in an all-day meeting over approving a COVID-19 vaccine. Commissioner Stephen Hahn calls it an important day for all of America. Hahn says the FDA is working to understand the allergic reactions that turned up when the United Kingdom began vaccinations this week. He says the FDA would include recommendations in any emergency use authorization about who should not get the vaccine. He says once authorized, it's important for people not to be skeptical, but to get vaccinated to help the nation reach what's called herd immunity. CBN's medical reporter Lori Johnson joins us live now with the latest coronavirus news. Lori, as we just reported, today could be the day many have been waiting for since the pandemic began. The day a vaccine is approved, but it comes on a day when we're seeing a record number of deaths, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And if people think they already heard this in the last week or so, they have. We keep breaking records for daily deaths. Earlier this week, we were talking about an average of 1 death per minute. Now it's more than 2 per minute. That's just here in the U.S. Yesterday, 3,054 people died from COVID-19. That's the first time we ever saw more than 3,000 deaths in just one day. We now have 290,000 total deaths since the pandemic began earlier this year. That's more deaths than we see from 6 flu seasons. We usually see 500,000 deaths from the flu each year. Some seasons are better than others. That's here in the U.S. only. Now we are at 290,000 COVID deaths. Worldwide, Mark, we top 1.5 million deaths.
Now, you said 500,000. Did you mean 50,000 flu deaths per year? I just want to make sure.
Yes, I did. Thanks for correcting me. Boy, you're paying attention.
Sure, no
One of us
worries,
is.
no worries. Well, what do health experts say will put a stop to these increased deaths, Lori?
Well, just about all health experts say the vaccine is what will finally end the pandemic, but that's not going to take hold for a while. It looks like next week, the first people who were not involved in any of the trials will get their shots. We'll see a total of about 20 million people get vaccinated this month. But remember, these people won't be immune until an entire month after getting their first shot. They have to get a second shot 3 weeks later and then aren't fully immune until a week after that. Most experts say we will have 100 million people inoculated by March. That's only about 1/3 of the total U.S. population. And we know that keeping our distance and wearing our masks protect us from the spread. So health experts advise us to continue doing that in the months ahead. It's going to be hard, of course. Christmas is 2 weeks from today.
Wow, well, what do you say to people who are afraid to get the vaccine?
Well, I'd say listen to what the experts on vaccines are saying. Talk to a doctor, someone who has a medical degree. And there are plenty of Christian doctors who have weighed in on this, such as Dr. Francis Collins, who headlined a webinar last week that is posted to our website, cbnnews.com, and was hosted by the Southern Baptist Convention. He addressed many concerns, or folks could just call their primary care physician to discuss their concerns about the vaccine as well, Mark.
All right, CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson, thanks so much for staying on top of this, Lori. We appreciate it.
Sure, my pleasure.
One country that is going ahead with the Pfizer vaccine is Israel. Israel says it will begin vaccinating its people on December 27th. It's expected to receive millions of doses of the vaccines in the coming weeks. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was on hand when the first shipment arrived.
We're here on a big day of celebration for the state of Israel. We see the end. We still need to maintain the rules of masks, on washing hands and keeping distance, but the end is visible. And what's important to me is that the people of Israel will be vaccinated. I believe in this vaccine. I expect It will receive the appropriate approval in the coming days.
Netanyahu said he believed in the vaccine so much he would be the first to receive it. Life could start to return to normal as soon as this spring if the vaccines prove successful. But this winter, it could be a very different story, especially for the homeless and those who minister to them. Charlene Aaron reports.
A surge in COVID cases coupled with plunging temperatures amount to greater safety measures for homeless shelters across the country. Some must limit the number of people they can help during this time when the need is even greater than usual.
We have not missed a beat, but every beat has changed. The Bowery Mission never shut down.
The Bowery Mission, a Christian shelter in New York, first opened to the city's homeless in 1879. Earlier this year, the Big Apple became ground zero in the battle against the coronavirus, forcing the Bowery Mission to change procedures.
On March 15th, we were serving meals indoors in our dining hall around tables. On March 16th, we were serving meals outdoors to go on a socially distanced line. It was an incredible adjustment.
President and CEO James Winans says the change comes just as needs have grown.
We saw double the number of people coming for meals that we were used to serving. We would often open our doors to 250 people. Now we had 500 people on the line. And these were folks who were not necessarily experiencing homelessness. These were folks who had recently lost jobs. They had no income, and they were looking for emergency food.
Further south, Union Mission Ministries in Norfolk, Virginia, also making adjustments.
The big, large community gatherings that rescue missions are known for on Thanksgiving Day had to be shuttered. We passed out tickets and with numbers, and we fed in shifts.
Reverend John Gray, who heads the Union Mission, says the ministry can only fill half its normal 400-bed capacity, to the point of even turning some away.
It was mainly people that were coming from other states, and we just encouraged them to stay where they were, to seek resources. Frankly, these were places where these were hot spots, and we just had to make the decision. It just was the most prudent thing to do.
For the Bowery, running 5 locations during the pandemic is especially difficult.
We did eventually add some spacing to our dormitories. We did a lot of cleaning.
There have been a few flare-ups.
We have had both staff and guests experience COVID, but we have not had any community spread. We are so grateful. We consider that a bit of God's miracle.
To keep cases down, residents are given daily temperature checks, and hygiene is top priority.
We have a modified van that stops in front of the Bowery Mission every day with 2 private shower units in it. People are able to get a clean set of clothes. We have hand washing stations at our locations.
As New York prepares for a resurgence of the virus, Bowery Mission stands ready to serve its city's most vulnerable.
We know at the Bowery Mission that there are thousands of New Yorkers who do not have a home, and we were not going to leave them behind.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
President Trump's legal team is joining a Supreme Court bid by Texas to overturn the presidential election. But what are their chances of succeeding? Dale Hurd reports legal experts have their doubts. He has the story.
CNN calls the Texas lawsuit a joke. National Review calls it frivolous. MSNBC calls it ludicrous.
This lawsuit is patently insane.
And even constitutional expert Alan Dershowitz, who has said President Trump has a path to victory in the Supreme Court, says the Texas lawsuit will almost certainly not overturn the results of the election. The suit charges that officials in Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Georgia changed election procedures, something only state legislatures are allowed to do. Texas is not overturning the election per se, but wants the court to mandate that the defendant states comply with the Constitution, which would mean the state's legislatures would select the electors.
This is the most significant of the cases filed, and it's the most significant because it is, as Jordan just said, completely outcome determinative. What does that mean? It means that if the court were to rule in favor of Texas, those 4 states, the states named in the complaint, would in fact have their state legislatures determine the outcome.
Texas is asking if the states have not certified their electoral results yet, They're asking the Supreme Court to order those states to conduct a new election. And if the states have already certified their electoral results, they're asking the Supreme Court to order those states to have the state legislature appoint the electors regardless of the election outcome. So it would certainly have a very dramatic impact, a very drastic impact, and frankly could overturn the results of the elections in these four states during this past election cycle. So it's a big ask and one that I think the Supreme Court is very unlikely to grant.
Last night, President Trump was urging the High Court to consider the Texas case.
Certain very important people, if they have wisdom and if they have courage, we're going to win this election in a landslide.
Attorneys general in 18 other states are also taking part. President Trump has asked Senator Ted Cruz to represent him before the court. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
A Michigan state representative issued a chilling threat to Trump supporters this week.
Be careful. Walk lightly. We ain't playing with you. Enough of the shenanigans. Enough is enough. And for those of you who are soldiers, you know how to do it. Do it right. Be in order. Make them pay.
Democrat Cynthia Johnson was removed from her committees for making that statement. Michigan leaders are determining if further disciplinary actions are need to be taken, that is. The Justice Department is investigating the finances of President-elect Joe Biden's son, Hunter, including scrutinizing some of his Chinese business dealings and other transactions. The revelations put a renewed spotlight on questions about Hunter Biden's financial history. The tax investigation was launched in 2018, the year before the elder Biden announced his candidacy for president. Hunter Biden says he expects to be cleared. President Trump and his allies have accused him of profiting off his political connections. Facebook facing major lawsuits alleging the social media company has abused its power in the marketplace, essentially becoming a digital monopoly. 48 states' attorneys general filed an antitrust suit Wednesday accusing the business of suppressing its competition, saying over the years Facebook has illegally bought competitors in a, quote, predatory manner in order to preserve its market power. The Federal Trade Commission filed a separate suit in coordination with the states, saying the social media company needs to be broken up. Coming up, you might call it an unforeseen side effect of the pandemic. America's risk due to depending so heavily on China for some major prescription drugs.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN NewsWatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Welcome back. The pandemic has made 2020 one of the most challenging years of our generation. It's also caused us to reevaluate many things, including our dependence on China. CBN's Eric Phillips reports on the hidden dangers of America's heavy reliance on China for prescription drugs.
Over the last 20 years, the U.S. has outsourced much of its drug manufacturing to China. Now, the lower cost made it seem like a good idea at the time, but now, in the middle of a pandemic, the U.S. could find itself at China's mercy.
This is very hidden from the American public. It took me 3 years to figure this out.
Author Rosemary Gibson wrote China RX 2 years ago. In it, she chronicled America's over-reliance on China for generic prescription drugs and pointed out a potential result of that dependence.
And that prediction was, in the event of a natural disaster or global pandemic, if China shuts the door on exports, on sending us these important products, the United States could end up standing in line with other countries to get these core components for our medicines.
2 years later, COVID-19 is rocking the world, setting the stage for Gibson's warning to possibly come true.
We have production shutdowns in China because people were not going to work. Transportation routes and logistics have been disrupted.
Right now, we buy generic drugs from China for numerous conditions, including Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, diabetes, high blood pressure, HIV/AIDS, depression.
We can't make the generic antibiotics that mothers give to their children for ear infections, or that you take for bronchitis or pneumonia.
Gibson says that's because China controls the core chemicals to make them. She says China makes 10% of our generic drugs, and with that amount growing, they could soon name their price.
Our dependence will be total.
It's a problem so serious, Gibson recently testified, along with other experts, on Capitol Hill.
There's no question the coronavirus is causing a concern on our supply chain on drugs. That's a fact, and we need to be able to have domestic productions. That's a need.
A need that could lead to a solution.
We have to bring our ability to make our medicines back home. We have some tremendously talented, innovative people in this country, and they want to start making medicines in a quicker, faster, cheaper way.
Gibson pointed out, however, that companies will need government backing to get it done. Otherwise, China will undercut them.
What the medicine dependency of the United States on unreliable and probably dangerous Chinese suppliers represents is a microcosm of what the Chinese have been doing to us for decades.
Gibson says COVID-19 has provided a costly wake-up call that was necessary.
It's become real. It's not theoretical. This is real. And so this is a motivation for us to fix it.
The other issue is quality control. Gibson says some of the medicines from China have either been contaminated or not contained any medicine at all results that do not bode well for the American consumer. Eric Phillips, CBN News.
Still ahead, it's really good gouda. CBN revisits the Nuns, who are known for their cheese-making skills and their dedication to prayer. We'll tell you what they are keeping in prayer these days.
When I came to Regent University, it's like the world opened up. I felt like I needed to advance my career and go back to school. Regent was a perfect fit for me. The Regent professors are world-class. You are equipped. The focus of the faculty is on each individual student, whether it's online or in person. You become a part of Regent's family. You carry with you not just the content and the knowledge, but the confidence to understand that we can be significant in the world.
Regent University. Follow your path.
Nigerian Christians
in Iran are routinely arrested.
Catholic Christians continue to suffer.
In times of trial and affliction, you need to know the truth.
One of the fastest growing Christian populations in the world.
Join Wendy Griffith and George Thomas for Christian World News.
Young people are the ones who are open to the gospel.
Powerful stories of suffering and hope that affect all Christians. Watch Christian World News, Saturday at 5 p.m.
Get Protect Your Sleep and discover how to improve the quality of your life. A free DVD or booklet from the Christian Broadcasting Network.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
5 leading experts help remove the obstacles between you and restorative sleep.
When you don't get a restful night's sleep, you wake up with an accumulation of stress.
Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet today.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
You'll discover how food affects your sleep, how to put insomnia to rest, explore effective remedies for sleep apnea, and much more in Protect Your Sleep. Wake up to your best life and get Protect Your Sleep today. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free DVD or booklet.
A few years ago, we introduced you to a group of nuns who do 2 things very well: pray and make Gouda cheese. Our Heather Sells paid them another visit and found out they are still at it with a special burden in what has been a very unpredictable and often difficult 2020.
This is the heart of this cloistered Trappist nun community, gathering for worship and prayer 7 times a day, starting at 3:15 in the morning. And this is the Cheese Barn, where the 12 sisters at Our Lady of the Angels make close to 20,000 pounds of Gouda every year. Most of their $250,000 business is mail order, although some local shops drive out monthly for the cheese their customers crave.
The flavor's great. It's on the mild end in terms of intensity, but it's delicious and really versatile. You can use it for cooking, or you can just nosh it with salami and olives and bread.
When they started, the nuns knew nothing about how to make cheese. Today, they literally cannot keep up with the demand from food connoisseurs around the country.
It sort of sells itself. People get it as a gift. And they call and they say, could I order some of this cheese?
Sister Barbara is one of the original 6 who was sent by a large monastery in Massachusetts to start anew on this gorgeous piece of land near Charlottesville, Virginia. The goal: follow the centuries-old rules of St. Benedict by building a life based on prayer and engage in manual labor to support themselves. Happily for the sisters, the property they bought already featured a cheese-making facility.
We were so naive. We thought it'd be so simple. You have some of this equipment here, and you just get some milk and a few lessons and just make some cheese.
But the sisters persevered, and they got it right, really right. They allot 30-some days a year to make the Gouda, and everyone pitches in. Sister Maria is the designated cheese cook. She must manipulate some 6,000 pounds of pasteurized milk with a little culture and rennet into several hundred wheels of cheese. It looks easy, but like any good recipe, it's all about precision, getting the correct temperature, cutting the curds at just the right moment, heating them, then draining the whey, and finally pressing the cheese. Over the years, the sisters have not only perfected their technique, they have never bungled a batch. That's almost unheard of. The sisters say prayer is a big part of their work, from making the cheese to sending it out.
While I'm doing it, I'm really praying for the people who are gonna eat that cheese. I mean, I know every family, every person have problems.
For every 5 cheese orders that come in the mail, at least 1, maybe out of every 4, 1 will have a request for prayers.
Prayer is also the reason the nuns say they won't grow their business.
People will come in and say, well, you sold out last year, so you're going to make more next year, aren't you?
What is happening here? A seeking after the Lord that is visibly discernible.
It's fun to see the nuns, and they're so, kind and calm and mellow. It sort of slows you down a little bit.
When they're not in the chapel or making the cheese, the nuns do admit to eating it, often. And there is a preferred method.
You toast a piece of bread so that the bread is kind of crispy. And then you put a couple thin slices of cheese on, put it in the microwave for 25 seconds.
Flash forward to 2020, and the sisters say the pandemic has made them even more conscious of the need to pray. They're especially mindful of healthcare workers and those who have lost a loved one. A new puppy, Skippy, has added joy to their lives, but otherwise, their days continue as they always have, full of prayer and ministry opportunities in simple 2-pound wheels of cheese. Heather Sells, CBN News.
Looks good. Well, to find out how you can contact the sisters and order some of their wonderful Gouda cheese, go to our website, cbnnews.com. Coming up next, another attempt at space exploration as Israel shoots for the moon once again.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link, Tuesday nights at 6:30.
Israel is aiming for the moon again after its unsuccessful first attempt last year. Israeli officials have announced the launch of the Bereshit 2 project. That's President Reuven Rivlin on the left with Science and Technology Minister Eitz Harshi. The mission to send a second spacecraft to the lunar surface. Israeli scientists hope to make it to the moon in about 4 years. Bereshit in Hebrew means for in the beginning and was the name of the first spacecraft for Israel's first moon landing attempt. It went up in a dramatic nighttime launch from Cape Canaveral. The Jewish state had hoped it'd make several lunar orbits before landing on the moon, but it did fall short of the mission. It was carrying a copy of the Hebrew Bible to be left on the moon after the mission was completed. And that's it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Or you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you'll join us next time. Have a great day.